Not all bosses are built the same. Yeah, some are just a weird monstrosity or your neighbor's kid, but others have layers. Some bosses are more persistent, more ruthless, more willing to go the extra mile for evil. The most resilient might fight you in many phases. The multi-phase boss is everywhere in JRPGs, but they've made themselves at home in almost any kind of game you can think of. For game designers, more phases can bring more flexibility, more of a payoff, and yeah, maybe a few new things to watch out for. Let's talk about multi-phase bosses. If you want to respec into sysadmin or codemancer, tackle the first phase of your class admission test boss with some help from today's sponsor, Boot.dev. Take your first steps to becoming a professional programmer with Boot.dev's full set of Python and Go programming language classes. They take you by the hand step by step with self-guided, bite-sized lessons, perfect for adding a new tool to your personal toolkit, and great for figuring out if back-end development is the right career path for you. If you've ever wondered if you'd like programming, this is the perfect way to find out. It's way cheaper than an intro class at college, and way more effective than just winging it yourself. The classes are designed so that you're never bored, and you also get access to the Boot.dev Discord, where you'll be learning and helping out right alongside a bunch of others. Get unstuck at any time of day. Boot.dev is available for free in guest mode too, so you have nothing to lose. Head over to the link in the description and use code DESIGNDOC to get 25% off your first payment, 25% off your first month or year of Boot.dev, depending on what you choose. Learn to love programming over at Boot.dev. Multiple phases are a choice. You could have just made a boss like normal, but a multi-phase boss feels a little more special. A more complicated fight will take extra work, but it can pay off nicely. There's some grandiosity you get by default, and don't underestimate what that can do by itself. There's more ceremony in an evolving fight, and more emphasis on what a big deal the fight is becoming. That makes it fit perfectly with what most designers would like to see in a final challenge, be it a final boss, or even a super boss. So don't be shocked that like half of the examples in this video show up at the end of a game. If you want to make something with a bunch of phases, you can start by thinking about what's going to set each phase apart. It's not much of a phase change if nothing about the fight changes now, is it? So what types of changes can you make? When a shift to a new phase happens, it's a perfect opportunity to escalate a fight. A great way to do that is through layering. The challenge can build by introducing new elements and building off of existing ones, which can immediately turn up the heat on a player and demand more focus. Sephiroth in Kingdom Hearts 1 is the game's premier super boss, and the fight uses phases to layer on new elements in the game's true final challenge to create a single iconic sequence. The first time you fight Sephiroth, you're likely going to be woefully underprepared, in both stats and skill. Go on, go get him. Yeah, that lines up. He's deliberately an extreme jump in challenge, even compared to the game's other optional boss fights. His first phase is about him not taking you seriously at all. He slowly approaches and either just slashes at you from a million miles away, or summons fiery pillars to surround him. There's even an invisible health bar over the real one to trick you into thinking you're not even damaging him for a while. If you're not quite capable of meeting the challenge yet, the game makes sure you think you're not even close. And this is just the first phase. You've got to prove yourself a worthy challenge before Sephiroth takes off the training wheels. The shifts in phase here are fairly subtle. At first, he just gets more aggressive with his basic moveset. Once you start to seriously chip his health down though, he starts to run. Now he's moving. The battle speeds up as he slashes more intensely and brings out more special moves over time. He'll teleport around, sometimes behind you. He'll hit you with big Octoslash combos, or try to cast Heartless Angel that will bring you down to 1 HP and no MP if you don't interrupt it. When you near his final health bar, he'll bring out big meteors, some orb projectiles, and he still has the rest of his moves from before. The whole sequence is a fast and steadily escalating fight, where you're clinging to life as he keeps throwing new elements at you. It's an intense ultimate test. The layers of a great boss fight can go way beyond just mechanical layers. It can include anything you can think of. A longer fight allows there to be space for twists and turns. You can create a narrative through combat. Final Fantasy VI's legendary final boss Kefka is a multi-stage boss fight full of all the Baroque grandiosity that the SNES can muster. There are 4 separate phases of the fight, with parallels to the progression in Dante's Divine Comedy, as you travel through Hell, Purgatory, Heaven, and at the top waits a conceited and now all-powerful clown god. The Divine Comedy connection is a fan theory, but it's a pretty solid one if you ask me. 8-Bit Music Theory has a whole video breaking down the spectacular music score to this fight, Dancing Mad. Each fight phase is given its own separate movement, and each is chock full of musical motifs. Every phase contains references and variations that dramatize how Kefka sees himself and your party. Each element in the fight presentation tells a story through implication and allusion, enough to tie it all together into a single, absolutely grand finale. The multi-layered ceremony makes the Kefka fight an unforgettable half hour, an Inner Circle Hall of Fame member of the greatest boss fights of all time. Phases can make it easier to tell stories within a fight that a single phase boss might struggle to do. Shovel Knight's gonna have to fight this guy, Tinker Knight. He's a tiny engineer, not much of a threat. He's no match for a big, strong, shovel-related knight like yourself. He'll flail back and forth, tossing puny wrenches your way. The music says he's lame. He'll even trip over himself in a panic. Bounce and hit him a few times and you're done. You could even one-shot him with the mobile gear if you wanted. You'll make quick work of this fight. Oh. Alright, maybe I got overconfident. Tinker Knight emerges with his dignity intact inside his suit of armor, overcompensating with weapons. Now it's a fight. You've got to avoid his tiny missiles, and platform off of his bouncing bombs, the big missiles, and rotating lance drill to strike at his weak point, his teeny tiny head. Well, it's still not that hard, and you could probably see this reveal coming a mile away. But the 2 phases combined make the fight way more memorable than either one of them would be on their own. If you fought just some dude who doesn't stand a chance, or some random mech robot, it wouldn't stand out nearly as much as the fight does by just making them 2 phases of the same fight. Tinker Knight splits itself to give the game a little more life and charm. You could argue that the most important part of having multiple boss phases isn't in the mechanical changes, but instead in the aesthetics of the phase shift itself. That the feeling of escalation or change in the boss's character is the most satisfying part. Ace Attorney's mechanics don't really change much as you plow through the cases. The core is always about reading comprehension and pointing out contradictions in witness testimony. There's no new enemy patterns to worry about, just logic puzzles all the way down. But that doesn't mean there aren't still multi-phase boss fights. As you break down witness testimony and expose the truth bit by bit, the key witnesses and suspects have a tendency to shift in character when things get serious. They have a soft breakdown, where they start to show their true colors, often with a whole new set of animations and poses. A sweet young woman transforms into someone more cold and aloof. A frail old ambassador drops that facade and stands with his head held high, now a smug criminal mastermind. The shift can be huge, and many of the game's best moments are the goofier breakdowns, especially in the later games. In the first case of Spirit of Justice, a calm and collected monk who plays a sitar will shift into an angry and crass metal singer. Keep going, Phoenix, you've almost got him. I can't go too deeply into these without major spoilers, but this pattern shows up all over the series. The developers find interesting new ways to incorporate these phase shifts game to game, sometimes using multiple characters, sometimes using elements outside of the plot itself to create them. You don't know what you're going to get, you just know that there's something good waiting for you if you can just tear down this testimony. Even without changing any mechanics, the effort put into the presentation of these phase shifts creates the game's memorable character moments, and helps make players really want to get that final breakdown. Long drawn-out bosses with multiple phases can have a big downside. Failing to beat a boss at the last moment is devastating, to the point where there's a not small chunk of players that will abandon your game if too much progress is lost. Having a multi-phase boss surprise you in a difficult final form take you out, and kick you back to the start to do it all over again is basically what you would do if you wanted someone to stop playing your game. Designing phases without checkpoints can be done, but it can also be like playing with fire, especially the longer a fight goes on, and really especially when a fight has a ton of downtime within the phases. The standard final boss of Sonic Superstars has major pacing and difficulty problems that only get exacerbated by it being a two-phase fight. In the first one, you have to hit Robotnik 6 times, but he's out of reach in the background. The only way to damage him is by reflecting these blue missiles back at him. There's a little RNG with where they'll appear, and it's a frustrating process to line things up. It's not that difficult, but it's easy to fall to your death or lose all your rings in the process. Between each hit is a chunk of downtime, and 6 hits plus downtime, plus having to reset to the start if you lose is not great. You might also phase through the floor for no reason sometimes. Cool. When you finally get out of the first phase, the second one starts with Robotnik chasing you. There aren't any rings to grab, so if you lost them in the phase before, you're going to be vulnerable the whole time. Don't fall, or you'll be doing the whole fight over again, including all the waiting around. You have a bit more control in how to take the boss out, and you can use your power-ups to speed things along a little, but you don't have much room for error. A successful run can take 7 to 9 minutes, which doesn't sound like a ton, but in a platformer like this, you'll definitely feel it. This isn't the only pacing problem in Sonic Superstars' boss fights, but the final bosses in each of the game's campaigns crank that up to an unfortunate degree, and the multi-phase structure really doesn't help. No one likes to lose progress, but that doesn't mean you can't be punishing in how you deal with a player failing to beat a boss. But you do have to think even more about how to encourage players to keep going. Cuphead can feel unforgiving with its bosses. They're very tough, and the game expects you to complete them from start to finish in one run. You die? Start over. It could be demoralizing to lose that much progress, so to counteract that feeling, the reward for getting just a little bit further has to be pretty good. Defeating each boss in Cuphead is about slowly but surely learning a fight over many failed attempts. Learn each attack pattern, recognize the tells, and navigate around all of them with precision. Oh, and keep firing. The game has a minimal UI to keep the focus on the beautiful animation as much as possible, and as part of that, you don't get a boss HP bar. Instead, the boss fights are broken up into phases, with each phase punctuated by more custom animation and sometimes a little storytelling bit. The new animations are both the signifier that you're getting further in the fight, as well as your reward for sticking with it, and with animations as high quality as this, they're a worthy prize to work toward. Without the phases, the bosses could feel more monotonous, and way more like bullet sponges, where the only guide that you're winning would be after you've already won. Cuphead's use of boss phases in animation is a wonderful way to add seamless rewards and encourage players to overcome an otherwise ambiguous and demanding challenge. A long boss fight can be thrilling, but not automatically. It's very easy to stretch out a fight to make it longer, and much harder to keep it interesting the whole way through. Phase changes can work as natural breakpoints to keep a long boss from getting too monotonous, and phases themselves can make a fight more digestible, like chapters in a book. When you get extreme with the number of phases in a good boss fight, each phase can tend to be simpler in design. Simpler isn't worse though. The sheer quantity of phases can become a part of the quality. 7 Force in Gunstar Heroes shifts between, well, 7 unique forms. Forces in this one. A few less on the easier modes. Each force only has the complexity of maybe a mini-boss, but it makes up for it with rapid-fire shifting between forces. The order is semi-random, going back and forth between horizontal and vertical tunnels. Each force is visually distinct, flipping between a running man, eagle, tiger, crab, tails, urchin, and gun. They're all actually made from the same set of sprites, just rearranged into shape. Each only has a couple of attack patterns, and no form will stay on for much more than a minute. Take one out and the arena shifts to the next, and you've got a whole new pattern to learn and dodge. It's a fight that knows its strength is in its variety and first impressions, so it makes sure that no form overstays its welcome. Too much complexity in each phase might also be too much to absorb before it's time to shift to the next. If you want to go nuts with the number of phases your boss has, you do well to take some cues from 7 Force. Breaking up a fight into tiny pieces doesn't solve every problem, of course. There's some diminishing returns with how many phases you shove into a fight. Nyx in Persona 3 has a whopping 14 phases, each representing one of the Arcana. It's great conceptually, though each individual phase is a little underbaked. Each phase is visually the same, and mechanically most don't present much of a unique challenge. They're almost like phases for their own sake. They pad out the runtime of the fight, making a long and pretty easy battle until there's a sudden difficulty jump at the very end. It's got all the time-wasty parts of Sonic Superstars, only much longer and with a much bigger difficulty spike. Good thing it's a good story fight because, man. Multi-phase bosses can feel very grand and very special, but they aren't just free passes to do whatever you want. You can get in a little trouble if you swerve too hard away from what the game's basic philosophy is, even if you do it in the name of having a big cool final fight. FTL's last boss is the Rebel Flagship, the leader of the group that's been chasing you sector to sector all game, and it's been itching to unload its full arsenal right up your nose. It's far stronger than the other ships you've fought so far. Drones everywhere, lasers and missiles and weapons of all kinds, 4 layers of shields, a full crew complement, even a cloak for good measure. And it hates you specifically. This is a real crucible. You can't limp your way through the game and have much of a chance at the end. This ship will slice you open, even on easy. The bulk of FTL is about giving you multiple paths to take out your enemies. You could shoot them down, disable key systems, kill the crew, deprive them of oxygen. Any way you can get them to stop shooting at you will do just fine. The Rebel Flagship, not quite the same. It's a multi-phase fight that breaks some of those conventions. Did you think you could board the ship, take out the crew, and win like any other ship in the game? Nope. The ship will just warp away at the end of a phase, with your crew on board. They're captured now. They're not dead, because you can't revive them. No more crew. Even if you took out the crew in the last phase, you don't get anything useful really. The ship's computer just takes over and keeps fighting at full capacity anyway, so don't even bother. The whole thing is philosophically at odds with the rest of the game. Creating a successful build for 99% of the game, just to have it surprise hard countered at the very end with no warning or recourse isn't very satisfying. Use a very light touch with bosses that use these sorts of gotchas and trump cards, especially when a player can't even attempt to counter them when they're deployed. Looking back on a fight and recognizing that you never had a chance in retrospect can easily rub people the wrong way. If you're looking for one more substantial thing to do with your boss phases, tie them to a difficulty system. Adding and changing boss phases on harder modes can provide a bit more challenge without having to change all that much of the rest of the game. Plus, it can make each difficulty instantly feel more unique, way more than a tweak to damage rates would do. Star Fox 64 travels through the Lylat system in a bunch of separate paths, but they all lead to Venom, one easy and one way harder. If you fight Andross's floating head in the easier path, you might recognize the first part of the harder one. You should be able to handle it by now. Take care of it and you get one bonus extra phase as your prize. Instead of a very quick Andross robot to defeat, Andross reveals his true form. He was obviously a floating brain all along, you see. Get ready for a much more involved phase 2. Switch over to all range mode and get your U-turns ready. Andross's brain form is harder to square up and target his weak points, and will teleport around a little as you're getting some good hits in. But with a little persistence, you'll get it done. Now with him out of the way, fly through a maze and hallucinate your dad right at the end here, and you're done. Throughout Star Fox, the game makes sure to recognize and reward going above and beyond what is necessary, and Andross's different final forms can act like a nice cherry on top at the end. A fantastic extra incentive for dedicated players. But you're not done yet. Head to the comments and let's talk about cool boss phases. Extreme numbers of them, extreme tactical shifts, extremely cool ones for reasons you can't quite explain. Just start shouting down there about all the cool ones you like. If you like us and what we're doing here, head to our Patreon where you can get even more Design Doc behind the scenes and monthly newsletter content, direct to your face. Multi-phase bosses are big guns, meant to make a statement. They're perfect for spectacular finales and extreme challenge, but can also be used in more nuanced ways. like making a fight more digestible, or letting difficulty levels be tuned to exactly what you need. It's a boss-designed Swiss Army knife. Just be careful what you point it at.